My next guest on today's podcast is a fascinating person, somebody whom I've been following and understanding how she has been able to overcome all the health issues which she had had in her life.
I have a genetic flaw in conversion of one amino acid, right? So phenylalanine to tyrosine conversion doesn't happen in my body because there's a genetic mutation on the enzyme. Because of that, my thyroid hormone levels are never optimal because tyrosine is what is required to make your thyroid hormones, which is still okay. But that same tyrosine also is required to make dopamine in your brain.
And today, overcoming those health issues has given her motivation to start her own company, which is iThrive. Please welcome my guest, Mugdha Pradhan. Mugdha is the CEO of iThrive India, where she focused on saving the entire planet and making the entire planet healthy and also disease-free.
The vision is to create healthier, happier, disease-free communities across the world every single day.
Now, her story is very fascinating in terms of how she studied nutrition as her undergrad and her master's program, went on to doing something very different after completing her own master's program, and then coming back to her roots of nutrition and starting a company which has not only been able to make a big impact to many lives, but has now on a mission to see how they can cultivate more people within her umbrella.
Lot of nutritionists and research and development. So we have I think we are one of the only companies in India that have a dedicated R&D team that's really learning about chronic diseases all the time, right? And solutions and testing and all of that.
By driving and focusing on iThrive Academy has really helped her on her mission, which is making the entire planet disease-free.
Buddha says this, right? You can only when you accept something, does it become yours.
Yeah.
If you say that this is not mine, it'll never come to you.
If this fascinates you, then behold and look forward to this podcast. And here, without much further ado, let me get on with it. Hey Mugdha, welcome to Masters Decoded Season 3. Really glad to have you.
Thank you. I'm honored to be here, and I'm actually really happy to be here because we've been talking of doing this, I think, now for 2 months.
Yes.
Feb say, and I'm really glad that it's happened and I'm here. So really excited, yeah.
I know it's been a hike for you to come here. You've had a fun, interesting trip.
I have come to the conclusion that you really need healthy testosterone levels to drive a car well on Indian roads. But we will leave that conversation for another day.
Yeah, and I don't want to probably the driver who was driving. We will not reveal the identity and the gender, but was probably doing its best.
Yes.
But talking about testosterone, right? And talking about the entire health aspect.
Yeah.
Before we get to iThrive, which is the company you focus on and you drive and you are the CEO. There's something which really is in my head and running, and I want to kind of take it out of my head first. I recently saw your Instagram story where somebody had put a lot of ill thoughts as DM on veganism, and you had put some veganism thoughts, and somebody had really sent a very provocative, I would use that word,
nasty,
messages.
like this really nasty.
One is, how do you cope up with all that narcissism, which in your mind is the truth, which is the truth, right? But the others, because they believe in that other aspect, which may be or may not be true, how do you deal with that?
See, for me, because the work we do, right, this entire vegan carnivore controversy has been going on for ages. Why have I taken the stand that animal foods and animal protein is really important for human health? Because I've looked at data. Now, I've been practicing as a functional nutritionist since 2019. 2017, right? And then 2018 is where I actually went from the vegan bandwagon because what was that movie, Game Changers came and so many documentaries were coming, right? And then see, it resonates with us, that agenda, because of inherently us being compassionate beings. We don't want to hurt another being for our existence, right? So that's the hook that even I kind of got tagged onto. But because I keep looking at data, Anis, we keep looking at blood tests. I keep doing my blood work every 3 months. Clients keep doing their blood work, right? What was becoming evident was a lot of deficiencies were building up, right? Protein, it was really, really hard to get protein. It was really hard to get all the B vitamins. It was hard to get so many minerals. Besides which, plant foods have a lot of anti-nutrients like lectins and phytates. And so if you're eating a lot of plant-based food now for protein also, you're going to end up with gut issues. So it like data started showing me that this really wasn't making sense, which is when I researched and I went to the other side and started investigating that. And then I started recommending that maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this plant-based thing isn't really a good idea for human health, and maybe we need to look at integrating animal-based foods back into our diets. So I started doing that. So I'm very grounded in this particular approach we have, which is bio-individual nutrition. Look at each person's blood work, look at their cultural, ethical, religious preferences, look at their social framework, and then create a personalized food plan for them based on that. But it's all based on data. So when someone comes and attacks me based on an ideology, I don't get rattled. I really don't, right? Because I've done that and I've gone through that journey of being a plant-based practitioner and then like going through the entire cognitive dissonance of like, oh shit, I'm wrong. And then choosing this side, right? So I don't get rattled in terms of what if I could be wrong. But when someone really is that nasty, because this person was like literally cursing me and like,
I saw that.
Yeah, like she was like, the health that you chase, me you never have it, and something like that, right? So this person, like, when they came with those kind of intentions, right? Because I do so much work with energy also, so I could kind of sense that entire energetic projection that was happening on me. So it's that time I really just think return to sender. Like I don't want to accept this only, no. नहीं है मेरे पास I don't want to take it only whatever you're saying, right? Like if it was a debate, if it was a conversation around like, okay, show me the data, tell me why. I mean, I'm doing a webinar on that end of the month, right? To kind of talk to people about the data. But if it's just your anger that you're projecting on me, I'm not going to receive it and all. Like Buddha says this, right? Like you can only when you accept something, does it become yours?
Yeah.
If you say that this is not mine, it'll never come to you. So when someone does some kind of nasty projection on me, in my mind, I just say like return to sender. So it's going back to them with full force, right? It's not impacting me at all.
So you've opened up a lot of doors today in just this question, Buddha. The focus about how you center yourself, data, blood work, a lot of things, right? So we'll get into each one of those areas. But let's talk about iThrive. What give the genesis of iThrive?
So my own personal journey created iThrive, right? Like I had done my master's in nutrition a long time ago. In 2001 is when I graduated from SNDT Mumbai. And that time, the kind of work that was available for nutritionists didn't really appeal to me. It was mostly gym jobs or like hospital jobs, right? And I didn't really enjoy the work as much as I liked the subject. So a couple of years of like career, like, figuring out what to do. I taught in college. So I went back to college, fought with my teacher, said like 7 years of studies gone waste. Now I want to do something with my degree and just about come back and teach here, right? So I did that. But then I got married, moved, and again, like, it was the same thing. Like, the slimming centers and all of that. So I chose to opt out of the field and spoke to a few people and like actually completely transformed my career. I went into HR, I did XLRI, I moved into HR. I was Flipkart's first HR hire when they just gotten funded by Axel. So
wow.
Yeah. So I did HR for like, I think a good 13-14 years, through which the pregnancy happened, through which the depression, like I was diagnosed with like clinical depression to the point where I was suicidal and I was on antidepressants for a year.
Wow.
So all of that happened, right? So basically through that life, like as I went through my life's journey, and I made a lot of choices that weren't inherently my soul's choices as much as they were like society mandated choices, including the marriage and all of that, right? And I got sick because of that. So I, like, in my case, my body and I have this pact, I think since the time I was born.
So how do you realize the body and the mind has that pact?
That's just like because of the work I've been doing on my own self, right? But my body is always a reflection of where I am. Mentally, emotionally, physically, right? Like it doesn't lie to me at all. So it's a very integrated system, and I'm really happy that I have that now. First I used to get like a little flustered by like even an emotional upheaval would immediately become a physical illness for me, right? Now that I've learned to kind of understand it better, I'm like, okay, this is what you're trying to tell me. So my body and I think from my birth, I've had this pact that it's going to be really honest with me. If I'm fucking up, it's going to show me that like, hey,
Sure.
look at this, like something's off. So through that life journey, by 38, I'd kind of reached 97 kgs. Like mentally and all, I was depressed and everything. But I didn't even look like myself anymore, right? Like, I just couldn't recognize what I was seeing in the mirror. Like, who was looking back wasn't me. The eyes and like the soul was lost somewhere inside. So 2016 is when I began this entire personal transformation journey. And you're somebody who's into personal growth yourself. So you understand how that desire comes from within.
Yeah.
Once that desire gets activated, there is no putting a lid on it, right?
Yeah.
So that desire to kind of do something about my own body came in 2016. And that's when I also realized that like the life I was living was inherently making me extremely unhappy. Because of that unhappiness, I turned to food for emotional support. So a lot of things were interlinked. Mostly I was completely living a life out of alignment, right? So that's what the body was showing. But when I decided to fix it, right, I went back to what I'd studied in nutrition and things weren't working. Like just calorie in, calorie out wasn't working. Keto, the way I was doing keto at that time, it was like just focus on fat. So peanut butter and like seed oils were okay. Like just fat, right? You're not thinking of the quantity of fat. So that keto wasn't working. So there were a lot of mistrials and I continued to lose health in the process, right? I was becoming more tired. I was becoming, I was losing vitality itself. That was also the time I'd come back to India. I'd walked out of my marriage and I'd come back to India with my daughter. So financially also it was absolute chaos. Like I remember there was...
So when you came out of India, came back to India, where were you?
Toronto. We were in Toronto because he always wanted to be abroad and wife, follow husband. I did that. But then like that period taught me that is not really who I was meant to be, right? So I came back to India in 2017 with like deep desire to just
fix
things, like fix it, like whatever was wrong, just fix it. In fact, that step, I think, looking back, I don't know where the courage came for, because I came back and it became more chaos. Because, see, I come from a very conservative, middle-class Maharashtrian family. And the first person who's gotten divorced in the entire family, right? Like, in generations.
Wow.
Yeah. It was something that my dad wouldn't even like... He couldn't deal with it.
So is the family okay with it now after so many years?
Yeah, now everyone is like, oh, you made the right choice, book is there and everything. No? So TikTok has happened and all that.
Yeah.
But that time, I suddenly experienced ostracization, right? Like friends couldn't relate to who I was. Like my identity was shifting, right? So suddenly I felt like, oh, there's no support also. There were a few friends who were there. Like there was a time when I just had 300 rupees left in my account. I had to pay rent. I had to figure out food for my daughter and me. And like, because my health was crashing, I really wasn't making money. Like, there was no money coming in. And then I just reached out to my friends and they kind of transferred like, I think 20,000 or something into my account. And that money really kept me alive for some time, right? So more chaos was happening. That nutrition thing that I studied in college wasn't really working. And I knew that like something had to like, something was missing. Like I wasn't seeing the full picture. So for me, my spiritual connection has been something that's been there from childhood, right? So I just prayed to God, universe, whatever, like, you know, I don't know what to do, help. And as I was browsing on YouTube, I saw this TED talk by Dr. Rangan Chatterjee. And that talk was how to make diseases disappear. Okay. I clicked on it and he spoke of the science of functional medicine, where you look at blood tests, you figure out what is going wrong inside your body, fix that root cause, automatically, externally, the symptoms will start changing. Right up to mental health issues, right? Because you could be deficient in vitamin D, you could be deficient in B12, and you could be like having depression.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, okay, someone, like there is something here that's going beyond like carbs, protein, fat, and like, you know, because I'd even got a doctor saying that I'm feeling like this. One doctor said, oh, you're just, menopausal, that's how you're feeling. And that was 6 years ago. I'm still not menopausal. Some doctor had said, like, you know, unless if I don't drink chai or coffee, I have no energy. And she's like, to pee lo na chai.
Yeah, placebo effect, right?
Pee lo, problem kya hai? I'm like, no, these answers don't make sense to me. Then, because I saw this Rangan Chatterjee's talk, I thought of getting blood test done. I did that. And vitamin D was low even in the reference range, right? So I went to a doctor with that. He's like, vitamin D is low for everyone.
Everybody
Everyone.
in India also, yeah.
So what? I'm like, no, the so what doesn't make sense. You should be curious that, oh, let me see what else is off in your blood work, right? So that is when I decided to learn this on my own. So again, that's a gift I've had, right? Like I've always been academically oriented. I like learning. So I was like, if no one knows the answers, I'm going to find the answers, right? So from that one Rangan Chatterjee talk, I went down the rabbit hole of functional medicine, ordered books. Then, like, at that time, there was the Institute of Functional Medicine and the Functional Medicine University, these two places. And then there were a few books. Dr. Amy Myers, Dr. Mark Hyman, Dr. Terry Walsh, all of these people who had kind of been the founding figures of the Functional Medicine Institute had already written their own books of their journeys and what they understood, right? So I just read and drowned in research papers and content and figured out how to do my own blood test analysis. So blood test in India is easy. It's not that complicated, right? The question was like, can I find out what is really going on? Did that. Could figure out insulin resistance, deficiencies, toxins, so many things were going on. Thyroid, I had like Hashimoto's, the autoimmune condition.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, let me fix one of these things. Again, with functional medicine, it's not just about looking at data and saying, oh, this is what is wrong. It's also about creating solutions.
Yeah.
So I did that, and then I lost weight. My Facebook profile picture started changing, right? So from like 97, I came down to 60 kg.
Wow.
Yeah. And people who were, I didn't have Insta at that time, right? So people who were family and friends on Facebook were like, whatever you're doing, we also want. हमारे लिए भी कर दो. So that's when this idea kind of emerged that, okay, I did this for myself. Is there a possibility of me being able to look at other people's blood work? See, because you know your own body really well, right? You know your symptoms. I knew how I was feeling with fatigue and energy and all that. So I could quickly do things and make changes and see if it was working or not.
Yeah.
Like, can I do this for someone else, right? Is there a possibility of creating a system out of this? And I was just contemplating, but people kept saying, like, telling me which tests need to be done and we'll do it and all of that. So July 2017. So I came back to India in Jan 2017. July 2017 is where I took up like 4 clients to then get these blood tests done, send it to me, and I literally charged them like 2,500 or something. Right?
Okay.
Because I was like, this is just my learning. I'm charging them for my learning kind of a thing.
Okay.
But I could find out what was going on, right? And I could tell them like, do this, and this should get fixed.
So within 6 months, you reduced 30 kgs, you're saying?
So it took 40. So the effort of losing weight had begun before that also, right?
Yeah.
So I was losing little, but in that 6-month period is when the major shift happened.
Okay.
And I think I reached 60 by December 2017.
Okay.
Right? So it wasn't really 6 months that I lost 37 kgs, but I lost a lot of weight by June 2017.
Nice.
So 60 I remember hitting in December 2017, not before that.
So July 2017, you started taking some clients without any legal entity or anything like that?
No, I was just like on my own.
Okay.
No company, nothing had come by then. So 2017 July to nearly 2019 June, I worked on my own.
Okay.
Just doing this, and see, because of the work through referrals, this continued to grow. Then I realized 1 month is not enough. Then I realized I need a lot of tracking and monitoring systems, because when I did it for myself, I was like doing it with a lot of conscious awareness. For other people, how do I know, right? Okay, I've done their analysis, I've given them a plan. How do I know if they're sticking to it or not, right? So then I needed tracking. Then I was like, okay, Google spreadsheet. So my corporate HR experience really saved my ass there. But so I kept iterating, making this thing that I realized I need a minimum 3 months with people, right? Like less than 3 months is not enough, because you're asking someone to go off gluten, for example.
Yeah.
People are okay leaving sugar, but gluten, seed oils, dairy, really difficult.
Yeah,
right?
I can tell you, I was telling my family, hey, we should stop seed oil. It was like, no.
Yeah. Yeah. Despite overwhelming evidence, now you've been researching this yourself. I know you've been like doing biohacking and all of that for yourself. So you'll know like seed oils aren't good. Like,
yeah.
But letting go of seed oils, and you'll get all sorts of arguments like, but people have been using it, हमारे में खाने में तो ये use हो रहा है, and all of that, right? So it takes time to change patterns and to make permanent lifestyle changes. So I realized I need that much time. So I was doing this. In the meantime, I was also doing this self-experiment, Because by then, by September 2017, my husband filed for divorce. I mean, in my head, the marriage was over, but I had not thought of like the legal aspects of it, right? So he filed for divorce and he took custody of my daughter.
Okay.
So she went, right? Like from me being like a hands-on helicopter mom for 7 years, suddenly like nothing was left. Family anyway had like,
Deteriorated.
like I'd seen that like they're not really there for all the choices I would make.
Yeah.
Friendship seemed fake except for the the two friends I've had since my 11th grade. So nothing was like really there, right? Like even child was not there. So my entire identity that had constructed around being a mom, like in one day it was just like demolished.
Wow.
So for me it was a very intense period. Like if I think of how I went through, I think it was only divine intervention that kept me alive, because it was so many things at the same time, right? So that time when she went, right, when he took her to Toronto, then I just didn't feel like living in the city also anymore. I just like...
When you say city, you were living in Mumbai?
Pune.
Pune,
I'd
okay.
come back to Pune only from Toronto. So I was like, nahi chahiye kuch bhi. I just don't want any of this, right? I don't want this house and I don't want this householding and nothing. And what was coming across is like, if I was serving people with their health, people seemed to come to me more and more. I was like, maybe this is my purpose. Maybe I'm meant to help others heal. Now, if this is really my purpose, and if I don't have any structures, any stability, nothing, ghar bhi nahi rahega, so will I still be alive? Will the universe still take care of me? Like, if this is what the universe is telling me to do,
Okay.
and I fully surrender to the work, will I be taken care of? So, September she went. December 2017, I kind of like moved out of the house. I just had 2 bags.
Okay.
Those 2 bags had my clothes.
And being a girl, being a woman, 2 bags is
Yeah.
less.
And I tell you, so what those 2 bags had were clothes.
Okay.
But more than clothes, it had supplements, books, and I think a couple of pots and pans also that were steel, because I was like, if I'm going to travel,
Okay.
and if I'm really going to live off the land, but I don't want to eat from non-stick pans and aluminium vessels, because I know the impact it has on my health. So I bought like a couple of steel pots and all that.
Okay.
So what I did for nearly like from that December 2017 to March 2019, I was a nomad. Just 2 bags, and the first time I weighed those bags at an airport on that conveyor belt, it was 29.8 kgs. So like, if I can in this moment live with 29.8 kgs, I should always be able to live within that. If it has gone more than that, I've taken something extra.
Okay.
Iski zarurat nahi hai,
Okay.
right? So for that 1.5 years, I stuck to the 29.8 kgs.
But when you say nomad, you're rental apartments.
Airbnbs, hotels. So
Wow.
yeah, so 1 month in Goa. So winters in Goa, summers in the mountains, Ranikhet for a couple of months, then Dharamshala for a month. Then I'd go to Toronto also because I missed my daughter, right? But so I'd go like find a PG kind of a thing in Toronto. Not a PG, but like shared accommodation. Right? And like 4 months in Toronto. And like I just did that for like 1.5 years. And also because the travel budget really bit me. Then I'd find flights that had long layovers, for example, right? So Mumbai to Toronto, then I found this Egypt Air flight.
Yeah.
Which was like a 20-hour, I remember telling you about it. So 21 layover, and then I was like, this is pretty cool. I can go see Egypt and come back.
Yeah.
So I did a lot of random stuff in that 1.5 years. But what continued to build was this work that I was doing for other people. So from 4 clients in July, by I think March 2019, I'd worked with nearly 150 or so people one-on-one, right?
Wow.
The number might be a little off, but around that many, right? Like either just doing the blood work analysis or doing the full 3-month program for them. And I realized that this is something that gives me joy, but it also brings abundance into my life, right? Like to support a lifestyle where I was just a nomad and I wasn't really compromising on quality so much. Like over time, I started living in better and better Airbnbs and places, and living in Toronto, earning in Indian rupees again was... So I was able to do that, right? And I knew that, okay, this is what I'm here for. If this one lifetime had to live its full purpose as Mugdha Pradhan, this is what I'm here for. Now, what happened was one of my clients, I didn't know he was like a serial investor and all of that. Like he was like a startup investor guy. I had just met him because his wife had reached out to me and I helped him with his health, right? So he was observing me, like the system and the like
The process.
Yeah, the process and how it was like no guesswork, right? It was very objective. So he must have been evaluating in terms of scalability and like, can this become a company? And by then I had this vision of wanting to heal 1 million people.
Okay.
That has changed now. That's become like a whole planet. But
Sure.
it was limited then to 1 million people. So in one of our review calls, late December or early Jan, he was like, this is great work and I can see the results in my body and all of that. But what is it that you want to do? I said, this is my vision. I want to heal 1 million people. He's like, I hope you realize you can't do that alone. I said, yeah, but who's in a hurry? Like, I was really loving that nomad life, by the way. It felt so freeing.
Yeah.
And then he's like, if you're interested, I can come on board, put in some money so that you can like basically set this up into a company if you want, right? I said, like, sounds great. He's like, my only one condition is we'll stop being a nomad and you'll find one place where you put your roots in, preferably India, because like, this is where we were doing our work.
Yeah.
And then like, I mean, if you really want to do that. And often when I go like at startup events to give talks and all, they'll ask me like, how did you find a first investor? And I tell them like, my first investor offered me money and I told them I need to think about it. And I took 2 days to completely evaluate because it meant giving up on that nomad lifestyle.
Yeah.
And actually finding a home and everything again, right? So I took a couple of days and then I thought of it.
And this is something which I heard recently. Men in that same situation would have gone ahead and raised their hands immediately and said yes. In fact, women, they take time to take decisions, right? And that differentiates between men and women in a very significant way. Like if somebody else, like if I was there in your position,
Yeah.
I would have like jumping with joy,
Yeah.
right? Like, oh, before even I have a company, I have an investor.
Yeah.
And here you have somebody who's ready to
also because see for me that money meant being
grounding
in
you.
one place, but I knew how much work I had done to kind of be really happy about being a nomad, right? Like everything that I had let go of. So I was a little scared that what if I get into another trap again, where I get suffocated by these constraints, right?
Yeah.
So that's what I really took time to think about. And
So what made you make that decision?
so I thought of the vision. I had this vision of wanting to heal 1 million people. I realized that alone I would probably need multiple lifetimes to do that, right? Like 1 million people for one person is really difficult to do. I didn't have that many systems, like Google spreadsheets and all are good, but they're not like 1 million scalable. So I thought of a lot of that, and I think like that corporate experience that I had for so many years gave me more wisdom because it wasn't just a nutritionist wanting to do something, right? I had seen businesses, I had seen so many startups scale, I had seen so many startups crash and burn down. And I knew that this was actually a golden opportunity, and really it was a signal from the universe that here, this is the next step for you.
Okay.
So I went in deep, and one thing I realized is to kind of work on that fear that would I be trapped again? Would I kind of
Be boxed.
be boxed, or would I again become somebody's puppet? Because that was one of my fears, right? Because the marriage had felt like that. Even childhood, being raised in a typical Indian family, mostly was a puppet only for somebody else's ambitions and desires. So that I realized that here I have to set my terms and my boundaries, right? And this is what I tell a lot of women founders. Often what happens with women, Anish, sometimes when the opportunity comes, or even when an investor comes, like for me, luckily, Rajesh has been like a A-class top-notch. Like he's literally like, I tell him, I think his grandfather.
Okay.
Right? Like I did and was like creating the company, but he's really coming from that space as a mentor, right? And he didn't come from a place of let me just take up whatever I can.
Yeah.
But for a lot of women, just because someone's offering them money as an investor, they don't realize that they can put their foot down and set boundaries on the equity and the how much you're willing to give and the stake in everything, right? This is something that I often find women founders struggle with. Like they just give away way too much.
Yeah.
Because no one's taught them that ability to kind of hold
Negotiate, money
hold
management,
dominance,
right?
understand that this is your idea, like you are the one who's really bringing it to life, right? So while the investor comes in with his money, without you, there is no business. women fucking this. So that is something I did in terms of setting those boundaries in place, right? Like, how is this really going to, like, even if you come on board as an investor, decision making, all of that, who's going to be responsible. So I'm very happy I did that at that time, and I'm happy I took those 2 days to think about it. And then I said yes to it, of course.
Sure.
Which is why iThrive is here. So March 2019, I came back to India from all my travel, because I had gone back to Toronto then. Came back to India, found a house, and I looked so much, like, on Google Maps from Toronto. I was looking for, like, the furthest point of the city, right? Like the closest to the mountains where Uber would come.
Okay.
And I found one apartment complex like that in a place called Bhuga, which is close to Mulshi in Pune. So I found a place, found a broker from there only in Toronto on WhatsApp, like, found a place. We came back, settled, and then the entire work of actually setting it, because all of these discussions were verbal, right? With the investor also. Then we had to make it formal. So that
You had to set up a company, entity.
and that is not something that I'm good at in terms of the paperwork and the legalities of things. Right? And like, if someone else can do it, I'll be more than happy. Luckily, the first person I hired at iThrive, Avinash, came with a huge amount of operations experience. So he was a friend. I knew him whenever I'd come to India, or if I was in Pune, we'd meet up and all that. So when I told him that this is happening, there's an investor coming on board, and then I said, like, I really don't know how to do this stuff, right? Like registering the company, even the legal, like the actual shareholding agreement and all of that. So he said, okay, I can help you with that. So he came on board, I think, in April end.
Okay.
And then we started the work. So June 2019, the company was registered, and then we started hiring the first team and all that. So
Nice.
it's my journey of struggling with health that taught me the modalities that were needed to recover, and then I could just offer that to people.
Do you miss your nomad life?
Yes. Unequivocally, yes. But somebody in the team had asked me this question, I think 1.5 weeks or 10 days ago.
Okay.
Right? Like, you must have felt so free at that time, right? So even in college, like, my friend's mom used to say ki tumhare pair pe na bingri hai. You know those wheels that are there at the beach.
Yeah.
Because I'd never be still, right? I'd always be like going from one place to another, traveling. In Mumbai also, I'd go back home only at like 11:30 or something in the night.
Okay.
And just be like all over the place. So that desire to travel is very, very deeply there. But I just look at the cost versus benefit. Like, if I take off for a month now, iThrive is still too tiny and young to kind of stabilize. Yeah. So maybe 5 years from now, I will get my nomad life back when the team has become bigger and is a larger.
So how big is your team now?
Now it's 45 people.
Okay.
There are a lot of, like, so nutritionists and research and development. So we have, like, I think we are one of the only companies in India that have a dedicated R&D team that's like purely learning about chronic diseases all the time, right? And solutions and testing and all of that.
How do you test?
Lots of tests. So I could talk about tests for the next 4 hours. So you see, we have basic stuff that we see liver function, kidney function that you can get in any lab, right? That itself gives a lot of insights. But from there, we moved on to more advanced testing also. So we do something called as a GI map, which is, and this GI map is the gut microbiome it's a map of the entire gut microbiome. And there are a lot of companies in India that started offering that test, but the one that we do from the US, right, it's very different because it's using PCR technology.
Okay.
So it's using PCR, both quantitative.
Why US?
It's the only company that's doing this test. In India, none of the ones are doing it this way, right? So what it's testing for is, it's using PCR to kind of get a full DNA map of all the, not just pathogens, the good guys, bad guys, everything, the commensal as well as the bad flora. But it's doing it both quantitatively and qualitatively. So it's not just telling me this is there. It's also telling me how much of what is there.
Okay.
Because you could have, like, let's say an E. coli, which is a pathogen.
Yeah.
So if you just see E. coli, you might just say, oh my God, there's a pathogen, I have to do something, I have to take antibiotics. But if your E. coli levels are like
bare minimum,
your body is anyway fighting it off, you don't need to do anything, right? So knowing that also becomes important in providing solutions. And in this test, it's not just about like the bugs, it's not just about the bacteria and the fungus and everything. it gives us insights into how is your digestion going on, right? Because it tells us like elastase levels and also your enzyme levels come.
Yep.
Then it tells us how your immune system in the gut is functioning. So it has levels for secretory IgE, calprotectin, and all of these. So it gives us an insight beyond what the tests here are doing. So that's one that we do. Brilliant tests that, because the gut, and this is something because you've been researching this field also, the gut is like really the center of
Everything.
right?
Yeah.
Many things. Like yes, your brain, liver, everything also is important, but the gut is a huge determinant of whether you'll have good health or bad health.
Yeah.
So getting as much qualitative, like really good data about the gut as possible is really what helps us with a lot of cases. And then we also do something called as the autoimmune panel, right? So there's a lab called Cyrex, again in the US, no one in India is doing it. But so they do a lot of tests, like even for mycotoxins, which we found a lot of people in Mumbai suffer from mold poisoning. And then mold is something that can impact.
And nobody would ever think that there is mold poisoning in Bombay or India ever, right? You see that so much in the West.
US, yeah, because
Yes.
US homes are like wooden houses and
Well-
people have like water seepage and all that, and mold is a known issue in the US because like air conditioning, venting isn't happening there. But you like almost every Mumbai person for whom we run that panel, especially if they've had like a lot of autoimmune issues and all, we've seen stacky bottles such as like toxic mold levels are very high. And because see, Mumbai is a humid city.
Yes, it is.
If you look at most buildings in Mumbai, like the interiors are really great, but the exteriors often have black
The mold
on it,
patches,
right?
yes.
So mold is a big problem in Mumbai and other humid cities in India also, like Chennai and all that. But like mold is like it's a very top line problem that most people actually suffer from. So the Cyrex panels help us assess that. There's also like a really great autoimmune panel. So someone suffering with any kind of an autoimmune condition, whether it's psoriasis or Hashimoto's or even like gut ulcerative colitis, like RA, anything. If that autoimmunity is being triggered by an infection, because pathogens can cause autoimmunity, right? So this panel checks for that. So that's a really great panel to do because we can get to the root of your autoimmune problem and treat that, right? Like, and there are herbs and there are medicines to treat almost every infection that a human being has. So we can reverse.
So when you talk about medicines, let's clarify. You're not talking about allopathic medicine.
No, not allopathic. So medicines in the sense like medicine is something that heals, right?
Yes.
So plant medicine also is plant medicine.
Yeah.
But like when I say
But when you were
medicine-
talking about plant-based foods, you were saying plants also have a lot of these other
anti-nutrients,
Yes.
right? So you have to see, plants come in as medicines,
Okay.
right? I see the world of plants exists to benefit humans, but in a medicinal way, right? So
Not in a consumption.
not in a food way.
And any
right?
medicine overdone is always bad for you, right?
See, even, and if you look at a lot of pharmaceutical medicines, no, they're derived from plants. Like aspirin comes from willow bark,
Yeah.
right? So many medicines come from plants. So plants have medicinal molecules. I have seen how potent herbs are. Like even with the current viral that was going on, we just stocked up on echinacea. It's a herb. It's a flower, echinacea, and astragalus and reishi mushroom ka mix, right? Like these three things, and most of your virals will like get zapped in a day.
Wow.
Or even something called as andrographis. So andrographis sounds like a very fancy foreign name. It's a herb that's very local to India. It's called Neelavembu in the south, Kalmeg in Hindi. You get it like Organic India makes Kalmeg, and it's so cheap. Like it's I think 600 rupees a bottle or something.
Wow.
It's antiviral, antiparasitic, antibacterial, and antifungal.
Okay.
So if you get an infection and you do andrographis like two capsules, if that infection is like just at the beginning, it'll kill it. It'll nip it in the bud. So plants are very potent, but you have to use them as medicine, not as food, right? So when we find like there are infections, like we do the autoimmune panel and we see that these are all the things that are triggering this person's autoimmunity. We create solutions based on that. That's one. Then we also, I'm in love with this one currently called the organic acid test.
Okay.
I think when I was coming back from Jodhpur, my test result had just come back and I was like, mega, see with it. She's like, I don't understand what you're talking about. But the organic acid test is a really great way to understand what's happening at a biochemistry level in your body.
Okay.
So it tells you a lot about how your carb, fat, protein cycles are getting processed, right? So it goes deep into biochemistry there.
Wow.
So you can even see if you actually have a glucose metabolism issue or you have a fat metabolism issue.
Okay.
It gives you insights into your B vitamin pathways also, right? So from
Where do you get these tests done?
this also is in the US. So these advanced tests are all US
But
tests.
how do you get it done? Like, let's say if
So that we've collaborated.
Okay.
We figure out, like, of course, with the lab itself. So all that they need is your plasma sample, which is the clear liquid that's there on top, right? So if you withdraw blood, you'll have the red blood that goes into the tube. If you just leave it for some time, you'll have clear liquid that comes on top. So most of these tests require your plasma sample. The GI map, of course,
But
is a stool
how do you
sample.
end up sending on
So
plasma?
that kits and all, we've kind of done that work of creating kits for each of these with all the certificates and non-infectious, biohazard, safe and everything. So we send that to people, and then you locally at a lab that's convenient to you with the instructions, you show them the instruction, and then you do that. And then you just have to, so your responsibility is getting that sample collected and couriering it, like through FedEx to the US. Once it reaches the lab, then they do like the test, and then the report gets generated, and then again with the analysis we help, right? But my one thing has been like over time I want all of these tests to be done in India only, right? Like because it's a pain, like getting it sent there. Sometimes customs acts here, sometimes FedEx will reject a sample saying ye certificate nahi hai or something like that. And it's much cheaper if you do it in India, right? Now these tests are actually expensive. The other tests that we do, the regular blood work, which is CBC and liver function, and all that's like even the most expensive lab would charge maybe a 10K or something.
Yes,
for it,
not
right?
more than that. Yeah.
But these are expensive. So GI map goes to nearly 39,000.
Wow.
Yeah. The autoimmune panel again is around 32, 33,000, right? Like just what the lab is charging in Indian rupees, dollar to rupee conversion.
So $300-400 roughly.
Yeah. The OAT test is a little less expensive compared to that. That comes to around 18K. But I really think like now I wouldn't really work on a case if I didn't do the OATs test, right? Because it's telling me biochemistry of your fat, protein, carbs. Then it's telling me about your B vitamin usage also, right? So your B1, B2, B3, and which enzymes are working well because lack of something or because presence of something.
Wow.
And then it goes to your neurotransmitters. So for me, I have severe ADHD, which I had just accepted that, okay, maybe it's like a problem and I have to live through it. But I didn't know why, right? What my OAT test showed me is my brain doesn't make dopamine at all. Like my dopamine levels are zero. And then I did a genetic, so that's the fourth advanced test that we do. We do genetics also. Again, he's sending the samples to the US because the kind of data we get there is insane. So I have a genetic flaw in conversion of one amino acid, right? So phenylalanine to tyrosine conversion doesn't happen in my body because there's a genetic mutation on the enzyme. Because of that, my thyroid hormone levels are never optimal because tyrosine is what is required to make your thyroid hormones,
Yep.
which is still okay. But that same tyrosine also is required to make dopamine in your brain,
Okay.
which is a neurotransmitter. And if like you're following Uberman and all of that, he's speaking of dopamine all of the time. And dopamine is not just your molecule of motivation. Dopamine has so many roles to play in the body, including pain regulation.
Yeah.
Like Parkinson's disease has been found to, like, people are super dopamine deficient when they have Parkinson's. Right? They get diagnosed, the dopamine levels are really low. And what pharmaceutical companies do is they offer L-Dopa.
Okay. Which is dopamine.
Which is a synthetic dopamine. That's the medicine that's given for Parkinson's. Like you're just giving a neurotransmitter. Now, I have a genetic anomaly because of which I can't make dopamine. My organic acid test, the OATs test, actually showed my dopamine levels were nil. There was no dopamine. I think I was just functioning because the device was guiding me ki ye karna utke. But because we found this out, there is a herb called mucuna.
Okay.
Again, Indian conch beach is what its Hindi name is. So mucuna purulens का जो extract है, it is an exact replica of how dopamine looks in your body.
Wow.
And all you need to do is just take mucuna extract with at a dose that's like relevant for you, and your body is like getting the dopamine that it didn't get for so many. Like my brain that was dopamine deficient for so many years felt like it was on fire the minute I started taking mucuna, like single day. And he's like, you want. And I sent a message to Johan. So Johan is like the chief knowledge officer, right? And he's the one who keeps going deeper and deeper into these tests and everything. And like, dude, my brain is on fire. And he's like, in a day, I said, like, you won't believe. So if you're depressed,
So when you say on fire, what do you mean?
it was sharper, it was smarter. Like how, for a lot of people, coffee does that, right?
Yeah.
Like you drink coffee and suddenly you're like,
It's buzzing.
But coffee does that at the cost of so many other things, right?
Yes.
Like your adenosine receptors and everything get impacted. For me, there was so much clarity, there was so much sharpness. I could suddenly hold multiple thoughts. And see, you wouldn't assume that I was lacking dopamine because somewhere there I think my brain makes up through other things, right? But I was on another level. Like my thinking faculty was another level. Not just thinking mode, energy levels. Because that dopamine was now going at every place where the nerves were deficient. And I really, because then I went deep into dopamine and understanding, what I realized is like that Parkinson's disease especially, what also happens, so this is interesting. Like I'll go over so many things because
Go for it.
when I started taking dopamine, my brain got activated instantly, right? But I started sensing pain in
Okay.
my body. Okay,
Interesting.
Like, so nerve pain.
Yeah.
So I was like, why is this happening? And then the only variable, so even when I supplement, I bring in one variable at a time. I just don't go like everything, right? So like the only variable that's changed is I've started taking Mucura. Why should it cause pain? I stopped it. In about like a 24-hour period, the pain intensity, like I couldn't perceive pain. Okay, then again I started taking it. Again, the pain came back, right? Along with the brain functionality. So it's like, why is this pain happening when I'm taking dopamine? What is going on? So I went deep into research. So dopamine is a neurotransmitter, right? So it's passing messages through your nerves. So even if you experience pain, dopamine is the one that's majorly involved in pain regulation or passing on the pain information. Why was I having pain? Because my thyroid was not functioning well. Because again, see, last year I went through a lot of emotional crisis. So food habits went all over the place. I gained like 10 kgs and all of that. So that had happened again. But I didn't know that my thyroid was not functioning optimally. Like TSH was off, but
Yeah.
something was definitely off with my thyroid, right? Because that kind of pain is a classic symptom of hypothyroidism and Hashimoto's. Now, what had happened? So because I went down this path, I was like, let me just go check if my Hashimoto antibodies are back, like the
Yeah.
thyroid, right? And I tested and they were back, but at very low levels, not like how it was before.
Yeah.
In 2017, I was like, shit, ye kab hua? Because baki fatigue and all, I wasn't experiencing so much like what I had before, right? Weight gain had happened, but I thought that's just because of bad eating habits and like whatever emotional stuff and everything. I was like, Hashimoto's had already, like the antibodies are already happening in my body, but I was missing on the pain signals because the neurotransmitter that communicates to you that something is off
Yeah.
was not there. Now, because I discovered that pain, I could go and check what was at the root cause of the pain, checked and found my antibodies had gone up. Immediately I had to put fixes to bring those levels down. Now in Parkinson's, what happens is dopamine levels are low. So Parkinson's as a disease gets diagnosed when there are tremors happening,
Yeah.
right? Like tremors and like muscle this thing. But for how many years your body must be trying to communicate that something is off? Because Parkinson's doesn't come in isolation. There's usually another autoimmune condition that's there with it. So there could be a possibility of nerve degeneration. There could be a possibility of muscle degeneration that's happening that another person with proper dopamine levels would have perceived at the beginning itself.
Yes.
But a person with Parkinson's will not feel it until the tremors actually start showing up.
Yeah.
So, like that road test for someone who has a genetic flaw with making dopamine can prevent a Parkinson's kind of presentation later in life. It's that brilliant, okay? Like I'm not making this.
You're getting me excited about, and probably we should talk about after this. How do I get that test? Because for me, as an individual, I realized that carbs have a negative impact. Now,
Like you feel.
I feel like what I call system crash.
Ah.
Right? I have a blue screen error on my computer. Right? If I eat carbs, like I'm drowsy, I'm sleepy, and I've stopped having caffeine. So no more caffeine in my life.
Yeah, so nothing's artificially
should be propagating, right? So I need to sleep that to let that go off, right? If I have to. So I'm completely off carbs, right? Or when I take, you can't be off carbs, but if I take a little bit of extra carbs on a day, I can see that impact. Now, is that what is it, or is it something else? Now, this test really helps.
This could find out, like even basic blood work can tell us, right? Like because the insulin mechanisms are off.
Yeah.
Either you're not making enough insulin or you're insulin resistant. So my insulin is not taking glucose in.
Yeah.
And that extra glucose is just shutting everything down.
Yeah.
And the blue screen error is happening.
Yeah.
So that's why testing is important, because see, you could just hypothesize that, oh, you're carb intolerant, and then like keep accommodating and keep making dietary changes, and then find it really difficult in social situations or in travel, like, oh, accidental 1 gram of carb aa gaya, so are you going to crash?
Yeah.
Or are you going to really know what is happening in your body and then how to live your life in accordance to your body's specific needs, right?
Sure. So, talking about this in a very interesting way, because today nutrition information in India and globally largely is so challenged. Like what you just rattled in the last 10-15 minutes, a common person doesn't even know,
Yeah.
right? And more importantly, if I go to a nutritionist right now, sorry, not butchering them,
No. I'm with you on
right?
this.
It's quite copy paste,
Yeah.
right? एक को चला दूसरे को चिपकाओ,
या फिर
right?
एक आइडियोलॉजी ले लेते हैं
हाँ.
कि वी आर प्लांट बेस्ड या कीटो न्यूट्रिशन करते हैं.
Yeah, no, you should not eat 3 meals. You should eat 6 meals a day,
Huh.
right? You should eat small meals. You should take this much brown rice. You should take this, and you should do that. Ye bhaji lo,
And-
But why is that happening? Like
I
y'all are
don't-
studying nutrition, right? In colleges, y'all are teaching the right nutrition. Why is this happening?
So no, what I learned in college, Anis, wasn't really what I know now.
Okay. So it's education to people.
So I made a meme also about it yesterday only, but not that my college had any malintentions at heart, right? But you have to question where the curriculum came from. Like the curriculum of MBBS doctors was driven by pharmaceutical companies. The curriculum of nutrition colleges also is not coming. Like that food pyramid that we see
Yeah.
is the worst thing a human being can do. It should be inverted actually, ulta, right? But you see the base is like full
Of carbs.
grains.
Yeah.
And then saturated fatty ऊपर इतना सब कोने में कुछ तो डालो, right? So that is being taught through students. And even when I went to college, I thought I was learning from the best, right? And that is what I was doing. Like, oh, saturated fat is bad, heart healthy oils, seed oils, and all of that. Keep fat to minimum. That's what I learned. So the education, and that's why we actually have an academy also. So we teach people nutrition.
Okay.
Yeah. So this we started in Jan 2021. Because for me, it was a recruitment problem also. I wanted to hire.
Because I wanted to come to this point, right? कि these 45 people ऐसे तुम्हारे जैसे knowledge से उठ के नहीं आए रहेंगे. You
So
will have to.
45 has like sales, marketing, design.
Yes, but if you look at the nutritionist group or people who are in the R&D, right? उनका वो flush करना पड़ेगा, right? Knowledge.
Unlearning.
Right.
So what was happening is, after like when we formed the company and all, and then we had to hire the first 3-4 people we hired, I had to like kind of really train them, like untrain them and train them for 3 months before I could put them on client work. And then I was like, why am I paying salaries to someone to teach them, right? They should teach me to learn from me.
Yeah.
So that's how we started the academy.
Nice.
So Jan 21 we launched the academy. Now we've nearly taught 300 plus students. So we run monthly batches, but it's a 4-month course where we're teaching this functional medicine, functional nutrition, with a lot of case study application and all of these advanced test insights. No? Because that authentic nutrition knowledge is missing.
So let's say if somebody wants to join your academy, right? I want to join because I'm more interested in this functional medicine and all of that. Do I need a professional degree in nutrition to?
We had done that in the first few batches, very, very elitist we were being that you have to have a master's degree or you have to come from medical field, right? So the first batch actually had an MBBS doctor also who had joined.
Okay.
Then what happened now, people started reaching out to us saying that we really want to learn this because I want to take care of my own health, I want to take care of my family. So please open up your academy to us also. And I had to take a call then because I was like, if I want to be as like elitist like this, then it's not aligning with the vision. The vision is to create healthier, happier, disease-free communities across the world every single day.
Yep.
Now, if alone as iThrive as a company, it's going to take many, many years to do that for the entire planet. But if we can teach people and they create their own communities and they heal their own communities, then naturally the vision is getting fulfilled, right? So for me, it's always the vision that has helped me in decision making. So I think after the 5th or 6th batch, we opened it up for anyone who wanted to learn, but with an application form and like fulfilling the right criteria, right? Because when we are giving you a certificate at the end of 4 months, we want you to do the right thing, right? It's not just you come and say that I have a certificate from Ep10 and then go back and do that random nutrition stuff that you spoke of 5 minutes ago. So
and I get scared to go to any nutrition right now. To be very
I
again.
don't know. Like even I asked the team this, right? Like we have some of the brightest nutritionists in India. And I asked them, what motivates you to be here and like not do that? So for a lot of nutritionists in India, being a nutritionist has become a shortcut to celebrityhood.
Okay.
Instagram pay with laughing with salads, making smoothies, right? Because you become an influencer. I have nothing against influencers, but it's a way to because people come to you looking for recipes and advice. No, so quickly you can get your own mini celebrityhood. So a lot of nutritionists get into the field for that, for the fame and success. A lot of them genuinely want to help people, but don't have the right knowledge, right? So the ratio of people genuinely wanting to help people but don't have the right knowledge is much higher. So they are just parroting what they've learned. And then there's a third category which sometimes I encounter, especially because we open the academy to everyone. Like, you want to come and learn, I'm going to say that, okay, Anis, come and learn, right? Like, fulfill basic criteria. So there are a lot of these snooty, but we have a master's degree and now anybody is going to become a nutritionist category of people who refuse to open their minds up to the fact that maybe they need to upgrade their knowledge and maybe they need to learn something new, right? So the first two categories are still okay. The third category is like, I'm like, mehan mat karo na. Like, that is it. So that's the sad state, because mostly misinformation is what is percolating through the institutions that teach.
Okay. So building on to what we've been just talking about, and you took pharma companies, you've done your own blood work and all of that, and you've aligned a lot of patients, and I would use the word patients, your customers who've come in, and you've done an analysis of my blood work, right? And your team has done that.
Yeah.
When I showed my own blood work to my doctor was like, everything सब ठीक है, right? कुछ फर्क नहीं है, ये तो सबका ऐसा ही होता है, तेरा बाकी सब बराबर है, but y'all opened up my like कुछ गड़बड़ है, right? Now it's hard for me to resonate, right? Being at that age of 45, that something is wrong, because for 40 years my doctor has been saying कि boss,
I know,
right? And India mein doctors are like,
I call them the institution of white coats.
Okay. But they're like the gods, right?
They're on a pedestal.
Pedestal, and everybody treats them like God, right? I'll give you my own example. We were talking about 2 weeks ago where I was telling you I'm having this tennis elbow and I'm having this nerve pain. When I went to my doctor, he said, baby, you have a cervical spondylitis because maybe you're sitting too much on computer and your posture is not right. I told him I'm sitting fine. So then he gave me medicine, and you told it's maybe a pain suppressant, but it's my muscle relaxant, but it's temporary. It's not this thing. He gave me a course for a week. I did that. After a week, the pain came back. Yeah. Right. And I'm like, shit, this is not going in my direction. And my pain in the back and my arms were still not going. Then I said, okay, I introspected on the question which he asked. Right?
And the posture. Yeah.
Right? So I was sitting on a cushion on a chair, right? So on the armrest, my arms were not touching. So I was like, this is wrong, right? Something, and I could feel like my arms, my elbows were like wanting to touch somewhere, right? And maybe like that's something which supported. So I threw that pillow out, and in just 2 days, I'm seeing a difference, right? Now, the reason why I'm talking about this is functional medicine or no medicine. There are basic things in life which we all do, which may be wrong. The way we walk.
Yes.
The way we sit. Yes. The way we,
modern day lifestyle,
right? Yeah. Our modern day lifestyle is so bad. It's so infiltrated with a lot of wrong things.
Yeah.
Like you and I just sitting on this couch right now is so bad.
Yeah.
Right? So how do you fix that as well while you fix the inner peace, right? Because while you can fix your inner gut and everything, your body is also meant to do certain things in a certain way. So how do you go about doing that?
So when we work with clients one-on-one, we don't get too much into that, because even I'm not I have no moral authority to teach somebody about movement and fitness from that perspective, because I've not studied that domain at all. I have a personal trainer who works with me for that, right?
Sure.
So when we work one-on-one with clients, we don't really get too much into that. We just advise them to kind of move, at least walk every day. We bring in interventions around things like white light, right? Like blue light. So we ask them to switch the lights at home. We ask them to, because that's an easy win, right? Like you just put yellow lights, your circadian rhythm is immediately going to respond to that. So things like that, we bring in interventions in terms of just getting movement into everyday life, changing the environmental lights. We get them to change their personal care and household care products. So even like, for example, the lipstick I'm wearing is an organic one with almond oil.
Okay.
So I don't use any toxic products on my body. So that same knowledge is imparted to clients also. From like even Jo Jhadu Pocheka, like from Lysol to moving to something that's non-toxic. So that level of intervention we do. In the academy, we have a course on functional movement where we actually have a functional movement expert who comes and teaches this to the academy students so that they can at least guide their patients on like the basics of movement and how movement impacts health. So when it comes to physical health, there's movement, meditation, massage, and like these three things are really important along with nutrition and supplementation and fixing root causes, right? So yes, you're looking at health dysfunctions, we're looking at biochemistry, we're looking at your gut and everything. So in the end, the solution for that is food and supplements.
Yeah.
But there are other aspects that you very rightly pointed out to, right? So movement is encouraged, but I can't tell someone like do your deadlift like this, right? So that needs somebody who understands posture and
Yeah. But okay, let's switch it. And
Yeah.
there was something which has been going on and it's kind of sparked a lot of interest. Today you spoke about the vision which you had, save 1 million lives, which has now evolved in saying
planet.
right? How does technology play in that scale game? And there's too much of technology today which can be detrimental. You do one-on-one today. Your
Yeah.
team does a lot of one-on-one.
Yeah.
But वो scale लाना business में, from a business perspective, one-on-one तो you can't save the planet, right?
I can't.
You have to have a 500 million to save a 500 million, right? To do that. So how do you?
This is something I've debated with a lot. See, what the one-on-one work does for us, Nanis, it gives us a lot of insights into human health. It's literally like every case is a clinical research project. So we have been building that back-end data. So now, because of the work we've done in the last 4 years since 2019, we have a lot of back-end data in terms of patterns with, let's say, type 2 diabetes, like pure classical type 2 diabetes or hypothyroidism or PCOD, PCOS. We know which of the test parameters will be reflecting what. We also know what are the like actual food things that we can do if it is just pure type 2 diabetes. So we've been working on creating maybe a tech solution around that, like 5 diseases for which we've gathered so much data. We can create more of a DIY kind of a thing. So already for the blood test analysis, like what you experienced a mini version of that, right? Like not all the parameters.
Yeah.
But for that, we've already created a software, right? So we are beta testing it right now. So far, like in the last 15 days, it started correlating with what we do manually. We're seeing the same results come out from the software also, which is like great news for us. So there will be a point in the near future where you could just upload your blood work into a software and you will get an analysis report printed. If you need someone to talk to, then you book a one-on-one call, right? So you can upload, get an analysis. Based on that analysis, you can say, okay, I want my custom diet plan and custom supplement list. We have the knowledge in the back-end data for 5 diseases now to be able to do that, right? So not the complicated autoimmune ones and all that. And we'll build as we continue to gather data around it. So that is one way I'm thinking like scale is possible for us where it becomes digital, right? So tech becomes an enabler there.
Yeah.
But I am not in favor of the company entirely going the AI way.
Sure.
Because see, what it really requires for a human being to heal is someone also giving you attention.
Yeah.
Someone giving you that
human connection.
Yeah, and that care, na, that someone is intending for you to heal. कि 2 लोग आपके case पे बैठे and they're like, no matter what, I really want Anish to heal, right? Just that intention, because I spoke of energy earlier also, right? Just that pure intention from someone's heart to want to make you heal sometimes brings about the transformation, right? So some cases, they're like literally like magic. Transverse myelitis, doctors give up hope on that. And we are able to kind of bring some change in that, right? So how? That is just like pure magic. It's nothing other than the energetic intention of all of those 45 people really wanting the world to heal, right? So that's why I'm really not so much in favor of us going completely tech, like let's say like a Healthify Me, ki everything is on the app,
Yeah.
right? And then you have standard responses. So that's not how healing happens. Now you need another human being to really connect with and care for. But we will create solutions that are like at least basics so you can do.
Sure.
You just want to work on your health, upload your blood work, get your basic plan, get your supplement list, do that much. Maybe you'll see a turnaround in just that much. If you need a deeper intervention, then we are there as humans to support. But the academy is where I'm seeing the true scale come.
Yeah.
See, because every batch I'm training 20 people.
Okay.
Right? These 20 people are going to create ripples of health in their own community, right? So 20 warriors of health every batch.
Yeah.
That is current batch size. And that is infinitely scalable, right? Because it's like on a tech platform already. It's already technology enabled.
Yeah.
So today is 20. Tomorrow it will be 100 people per batch. So every month, 100 people from across the world are learning this. And then
Is it all digital?
it's all digital, sorry.
Learning is all digital?
It's all digital. It's all digital,
Nice.
right? So there's no need for us to physically, for
Be
them
there.
to come to office or something like that. It's entirely digital and that's super scalable. Even like we started with 5 students, we are now already at 20 per batch, right?
Nice.
And even the academy modules go through a lot of iteration. Like in June, we are launching a completely revamped course based on what we've seen, like
Okay.
in terms of what people need to learn.
What gave the genesis to the book?
That was entirely Avinash
Okay.
telling me that write a book, it's time you wrote about this journey.
Okay.
So see, what I've narrated to you so far is still like, it's just an hour of conversation, but the actual 6 years of everything that has happened is, it's hard to put in like just one conversation. So he kept telling me that just write. I was like, I've never written a book and I don't even know where to start, right? Like, how do you
Yeah.
just start writing a book? And he's like, just start writing this, like the story of why you began, why iThrive happened. And then I was like, okay, I'll write that, but what else can we do? Then we actually, so our model also is a very community centric one, right?
Yeah.
So none of our clients, like it's not like I worked with someone in 2017 and I've forgotten about them. They all are part of a larger group called the iThrive tribe. So we were like, maybe we should just reach out to our tribe members and put their stories in.
Okay.
So we have, like, one is my story, the entire narrative from my childhood till like last year when I started writing this. And then there are 9 other stories of people who have healed with iThrive. And they're different. So there's one story for bipolar, of a guy who had bipolar issues. There's one story of someone with IBS itself. There's one story of a person with depression and colitis. Then there's one story of a person with diabetes. So through their stories, like the reason why finally this book came through was like for people to see that you can really, every day people can really transform their health. When I tell my story, it'll be like, oh, but you have a master's degree in nutrition and like you did so many things and you gave up on your like marriage and like we don't have the courage to do all of that, right? But when you read these other 9 people's stories, then you will see that it's like everyday people, right?
Yeah.
Everyday people just choosing to take charge of their health and saying like, I'm done with conventional medicine and I want to be medicine free and I want to use food to heal.
Yeah.
So it's those stories that are there. So that's where it really was like just, oh, let's see if we can do this, and it started off.
You've been talking a lot about divine energy, but there's something which is there and on your body, and you've gifted me these beautiful crystals.
Oh my God. I am like a crystal, like.
But where did these crystals show up in your life?
Where? Oh, that's a very interesting question.
How and where?
Where did I first crystal?
And how did you find the wisdom, the power of these crystals also?
So as a kid, no, because I grew up in that Whitefield before Whitefield became the IT monster that it is. It was a very lots of trees and mud and puppies and kittens kind of place. And I'd be playing in mud all through, right? And then I'd find all these different colored stones and also I'd keep collecting stones. Now that you ask me, I've never thought of this, right? But I think in terms of like actual crystals, like knowing rose quartz and then the qualities and all, that was in that period when I was a nomad.
Okay.
So when I was in Goa, for example, there are a lot of crystal shops. And I used to stay in South Goa mostly, not like in the commercial North Goa part. So South Goa is very spiritual in its essence. So there were a lot of crystal shops. I walked into one and then this pretty pink crystal pendant caught my attention. I was like, what is this? And he said, it's rose quartz. It's for self-love. And I was going through that entire phase. I was like, yeah, that is something I definitely can do with. I think that's the first crystal that I really bought. And he had this book on crystals, right? So I just sat in the shop and read through the book. And then I was like, wow, these things are pretty amazing. And then when I went to Toronto again, like when I would go to just meet my daughter, again, downtown Toronto has a lot of, like, Toronto is very, very, it's got a mix of like the, okay, very, very corporate culture, but also has this entire hippie thing that
Yes.
goes on, right? Very hippie if you go like into the insides. So there were amazing shops there that had crystal and sage and all of these things. And
Nice.
then I just loved the energy. And then I could see like how certain things actually change. So I've always been very sensitive to energies. Always.
Yeah.
Like always, right? To the point that sometimes I end up picking up other people's thoughts without necessarily like putting a boundary in place. And I saw how they actually would heal or like change the vibe itself. Like
Okay.
people walking. So we have a lot of crystals in iThrive's office also.
Okay.
And people walking into office say that like the energy itself feels different here, right? So and then sometimes they're just so pretty. Like look at this. This is my
Yes.
birthday gift from Avinash, and it's like such pretty colors. So
Nice.
I don't buy jewelry. I don't shop for clothes. That like I never did that. But crystals is something where I have put in a lot of money.
Nice.
Yes. My house has like a 13 kg rose quartz next to my bed.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
13 kg.
Yeah.
Okay. No, Mugdha, this has been an amazing conversation. I've really enjoyed it. I think you and I can go on with the
Oh,
topics. you know,
I think so too, right? We can just keep
I'm
speaking.
sure it can be a 10-hour podcast, if not less. But I know you're a busy person, and I know you are in your fundraising process
Yes.
right now as we speak. So times are busy for you. But thank you for coming over in person. It's been
Oh, it was a pleasure. I anyway wanted to meet you and like just like have a conversation because I think I don't know if you have experienced this that as we go on our personal growth journey,
Yeah.
sometimes we end up losing our older connections and
Yeah.
then like just being able to talk heart to heart na, without any agenda and just like being very honest.
Yeah.
Like you giving me that painting of a fish, it's such a sweet thing, right?
Yeah.
But you wouldn't be able to do that like in your corporate
No, we would not. Be.
culture, and like that connection is something that I really value because I've felt that these kind of personal connections, if we don't nurture them, we go to become really isolated
Yes, we do.
beings, and I don't think that isolation is good. Like I can continue to progress on my spiritual journey, I can continue to do all my meditations in my own time, but in the end we are part of one collective
Universe.
universe and one fabric, na? So how can we not connect with another human being? So when I find a human being I connect with, I'm like, yes, I will find time and meet. So thank you so
Connect
much.
back with your driver. I'm sure you will have a fun night.
That one is over. I will book another cab and I will
Definitely.
go back home.
Yeah. No,
Because-
thank you. Thank you. It's been an amazing conversation, and best of luck with iThrive.
Best of luck to you also, Anish, with everything you're doing.
Thank you.
One day I'm sure like you'll be Masters Decoded season 25 and like
As we say, inshallah.
Silver Jubilee 25 or
Yes,
Silver Jubilee?
Silver
Yeah,
Jubilee.
Silver Jubilee major fun event kind of a thing. So
Yeah,
I'm
definitely.
sure, and I would be happy to witness something like that. So
No, I look forward to it.